morning, everyone. Let's call this meeting to order. This is Elbert County Board of County Commissioners meeting is November 14th. I believe it's what it looks like. The exact time, right time should be 9:06, correct? All right, if we could do a roll call, please.
Commissioner Thayer?
Here.
Commissioner Richardson?
Here.
Commissioner Wilcox?
Here. At this time, I'd ask Corey, could you do a prayer for us, please, and a pledge?
Prayer first or pledge?
Please, prayer.
All right, please join me. Heavenly Father, we just come to you this morning and ask for your guidance and strength as we take on the public's work and take decisions and hear about community. Lord, we just ask that you be with our leadership in this county who are part of the leadership of this state. Lord, we just ask that you be with them, strengthen them, keep them in wisdom and in mind so that they may work for the good of the people. Lord, we ask those far and near hear your heart and hear your wisdom, Lord. We just ask that you be with our friends, our family, and our nation, Lord. We ask that you be with the men and women who are serving country, both in country and out. Lord, we just ask that you protect them, be with them, and lift them in your arm, Lord. We just ask this in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Corey, thank you. All right. I think we've got some agenda changes. I think we've got a few.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I move we accept the agenda as presented with the following changes. Strike action item number 1, minutes from October 24th. I don't think they made it into the packet. And add an action item to consider a planning commission appointment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, on to the consent agenda.
Mr.
Grant.
Chairman, I move that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Elected officials, department head, and staff reports. I think we have a few. Sam, I think.
Good morning, Commissioners. I have a couple of announcements. One is that due to military and federal service obligations, Justin Clausen is separated from service for Elbert County and is going to focus on his military and federal service obligations. We have truly will see Justin around. We will be reposting that position as soon as we scrub that job description. I'm on now.
Yep.
There we go.
So Justin has left service for Elbert County. He's going to focus on his military and federal service obligations. We are going to repost that position. We'll need that too. So that's that. The other announcement I wanted to talk very briefly about was that we are now putting out an Elbert County connection. Every citizen should be getting this either in the Prairie Times or in the mail. This is a new process for the commissioners and the county to share news about the county. We have our strategic plan and our goals for the county is to be increase awareness of what's going on in the county, increase communications, and this is one of the ways that we're going to try to do that. Not everybody's on Facebook, not everybody's on our website, so we think this will be another way to get out to another segment, an important segment of the county.
Thanks.
That's all I have.
Thanks.
Anything else over there? Nope. Okay. On to open public comment. Let me remind everyone that this section is for comments unrelated to items under discussion or action, because you'll have the opportunity to comment at those times. Yes.
Sorry, I don't talk real loud. Hello, Commissioners. Lance Bakemeyer, 42125 Las Colinas Drive, Elizabeth, Colorado, 80107, previously of Fondas, Colorado, and previously of Parker, Colorado. I'm a commercial realtor working mainly here in Elbert County, and I have some information to share with the group. It's just information. It's not an opinion. I've been asked by several potential buyers of property in Colorado that what has been the land sales of properties here in Elbert County. In the last 6 months, there were 44 properties sold. My criteria was 10 to 60 acre parcels selling within a 25-mile radius of the town of Elbert. So that would include the towns of Kiowa, Bennett, Strasburg, Callahan, Deer Trail, and Rama. Anyway, there were 44 properties sold in the last 6 months between a sold price of $112,500 to $422,000. In 6 months to 1 year, there were 35 properties ranging in price from $100,000 to $349,000 in the same areas, same towns, same county. There were 34 properties ranging in price that sold between $85,000 and $360,000 within the period of 365 days to 545 days, which is 18 months. One of these properties was sold as land, was the Sundowner Arena, which is now called the Messer Arena. That sold for $650,000, but it was included as a land sale. I just should point that out. There were 41 properties sold ranging in price from $85,000 to $278,000 during the period of 545 days to 720 days, and so that would be effectively 2 years ago. These are all properties that are 10 to 60 acres. So there has been quite a lot of land sales going on, and there continues to be. In terms of single-family residences, I've got some numbers in terms of single-family homes in the county, the whole county. The median sales price in 2017 for a home in Elbert County was $502,500, and the median sales price for property for single-family homes in 2018 so far to date is $518,000. The average sale price for 2017, this is for a single-family home, was $500,000, and the average sale price in 2018 was $504,000. The percent of sales price to listing price was 98.5% in 2017 and 98.7% in 2018 year to date. The days on market in 2017, that means when it was listed to the time it sold, was 38 days in 2017, 36 days in 2018 year to date. In 2017, there was an inventory of single-family homes of 148, and in 2018, there currently is an inventory of 152 homes selling for, are listed for 152. There's 152 properties right now in Elbert County listed. Basically, this equates to a 3.2 month supply of housing here. Right now, there is 55 new listings in the month of October, and
Of those 55, 38 were sold. So the days on market is very quick. We're seeing renewed interest in buying homes here in Elbert County, and that equates to, from my standpoint as a commercial realtor, housetops. Housetops within a radius of wherever you're going to put your commercial, retail, apartment, whatever it is, light industrial, is the number one factor in terms of them deciding to come to wherever they're going to locate their business, within the radius of that. So we are going to start to see some commercial development here because of the increased growth of single-family homes and lots. That's all I had to say. I do have some backup data if you're interested in it. I could provide that to you.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Marlene Groves, 3300 Ridge Road. I like the Albert County connection. I like that we have it. I have a few suggestions and a couple of questions. Number one, I'd like to know what is our cost for that? How did we select the paper or periodical? Could we also do inserts in other papers? Would it behoove us to print additional copies and have them at the county buildings, at a few of the local restaurants? You know, like if we're going to have that document, have it available and not just, you know, in the paper. You could also save it as a PDF, and though not everyone goes to the website, you can have them archived there for information. So just kind of question, suggestion, but overall it's good to get the information out.
Thank you.
Morning. Patricia Sizemore, 33500 County Road 21, Elizabeth. I can't begin to tell you how far out of my comfort zone I am right now. Bear with me. In 2011, the commissioners passed a resolution banning secondary residences on anything less than 20 acres. And this just came to my attention through a Facebook thread, but it got my attention as to possibly what is the commission's thinking as far as rewriting this. What has prompted the commission to take a look at maybe loosening up that resolution a little bit.
Okay.
I guess what I look at is, as a property owner, I have a heavy investment in my home and in my property. And while my neighbor's idea of a secondary residence might be a gumdrop HGTV tiny home that is adorable, mine might be a remodeled shipping container. So that's my concern, is what is being looked at as far as, I have a tendency to go to the deepest, darkest place first, because once you go there, anything is an improvement above that. And this just was a concern for me. I wanted to bring it to your attention that I hope that the good of all of our homeowners here in Elbert County is taken into consideration, maybe as much as the few who are wanting a second residence for an elderly parent or for children who are maybe just getting married, need a place to go. I understand that. I totally get that. But I just would like consideration for those of us who have heavy investment in our properties, because if we have to drive to our homes every day, passing shipping containers or haphazardly constructed secondary residences, it's shooting my property value down. And that's all I have. Thank you for hearing me.
Okay, thank you. Grant wanted to say something. Go ahead, Grant, you want to say something?
Your timing is propitious. We are in the process at this time of updating our zoning and subdivision regulations. And then, having lived in the county for a long time, back before 2011, when you just pointed out, there was a second residence was there, and it was generally considered important for family situations. We are reviewing that right now. We're looking at draft language that would allow for a second residence. Right now, you're not allowed to have any, almost somebody's wet bar is considered a second residence now, which I think is ridiculous. You know, a lot of us have walkout basements and things like that where we have man cave or something in the basement. Anyway, coming back to the real issue here is that one of the things that the statistics we've been reading is the general aging of the population in the county. So the second residence, either an apartment above a garage perhaps, or an addition to a house, or we're looking at that very seriously, recognizing that we've had many people that have come to us and asked for that. Now, the shipping container thing, I don't think that's contemplated.
I've seen it.
You may have seen it, but if it's in the county, I can't imagine it being legal, because there's...
I've not seen it in this county, but
Okay.
I've seen it happen. I've seen what happens when the regulations are loosened up a little bit to permit people to provide, like you say, your idea, my idea, someone else's idea, they're all gonna be different.
One of the
And
things,
we've got a
one of the
hodgepodge.
things you're gonna hear a little later is we're in the process of adopting, what is it, 2018 building codes. And so there's, and our building department adheres to those building codes very strongly. Now, is it possible that somebody might do something illegally? I suppose. But in terms of our planning, and we're just in the drafting stage right now, so your timing is perfect. We hear you, but I do think that under certain circumstances, we will see the recognition of the aging of the population and healthcare and those kind of things with a second resident. And I liked also your comment about newly marrieds and things like that. Going back before 2011, I was on the planning commission. The whole idea of the second residence had more of a rural aspect to it then, because of families, wanting to keep family members home. I can't say any more than that because we're just in the drafting stage, but I think that I compliment you on your anticipating what we're up to, and thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other comment?
Hello, my name is Carla Haygood. I had a comment that I realize that it's just in draft form right now, but I looked at a copy of the subdivide process, and there were two slides that kind of caused me some concern, and I thought more thought probably should be given to it, and that is the cash in lieu of open space. I can understand there are situations where you'd want to do that, and I understand, but my concern is having it mandatory for 80 acres and under, and optional for over 80 acres. That to me seems very open. I think there's probably more complexity to this. It's not only the size of the acreage, but it should also concern the density that is proposed for that acreage, and perhaps also the walkability to other available open spaces or parks. So just what was on those two slides, I thought was a little overly simplistic. Could give results that we really don't want in Elbert County. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Good morning, Liz Alvarez, 512 Middle Station Circle. My question is general in regards to, we have great comments and questions here, and usually we have to wait for the meeting minutes to find out what happened. Is there any other way that we can get those answers before the minutes are approved? Carla had a great question today. You had great information regarding the new insert in the newspaper. But I'd like to hear some of the answers to the question, like the question that she asked. If I'm not here, I'd like to know what happened in not only what they commented, but what is the answer from the commissioners.
Actually, we'll look into it. You can always call us and find out what we came up with. That's one way. Now granted, that may be uncomfortable, but
Oh,
we
no, I don't have a problem calling.
I mean, we could, however, though, a formal process into answering the questions. Let's,
I think that's needed. Also,
Okay.
it actually will refresh your memory when someone comes in and it's new to the county like me and ask you a question and you don't have way to go back. So your record keeping is going to be improved if you have that. So thank you. That's it.
a follow-up.
Commissioners.
One I might
Mike, and
mention
also-
is all our meetings are videoed and put on a YouTube channel. Almost
It's very hard to hear the recording. And
Yeah.
also I hear the questions but not the answers.
Okay, and then also please recognize that a lot of, this is public comment. Generally, it's to raise issues,
To raise issues that we.
work into. The town halls are more of the free-flowing Q&A type thing, or if you'd like us to come out to your areas to talk, but generally the public comment is just that, comment on what's going on, things for us to consider. It's not always a place for Q&A, yeah.
And that's great.
Yeah.
My concern here, some things are gonna be open-ended,
Yeah.
some things are not going, they do have a regulation that go against it or an answer that you can
Yeah.
provide. And it would be nice to have some information feeding back to us, even if it
Yeah.
takes the county a week or so. There's gotta be a way to do record keeping. The citizens are.
So I'm
Yeah,
gonna,
yeah.
I'm gonna
Here, let
ask
me-
you to step back up to the microphone, please, thank you.
So the citizens are asking very good questions, and many of us would actually benefit from hearing the answers and not coming back or just being, not knowing what the answer is. So some things are open-ended, like you mentioned, but some things do have answers, some things that have history that it would be great to know. Like, for example, we had a mill levy, or for example, this happened before. And it is part of getting the people that were not able to come here at 9 a.m. because they have a job, right, another job, to get them connected and understanding what you guys are doing. I think it's important. You guys are working really hard. You've worked for many years, but many of the questions and the comments go unanswered. You nod your heads sometimes, you say you write it down, but what happens with the feedback? So
Okay.
that's it.
All right. We'll look at that. Thank you. Have any more comments?
A question I have is regarding the policy, policy regarding Board of County Commissioners meetings, right? That states that all draft documents will be available by 5 p.m. on the Wednesday on the week before the meeting. But typically, those documents either show up a day before or late in the day before of the meeting. So how do you guys review and do your analysis of all those documents, or how can we do that when the documents just come out, barely a few hours before the meeting happens? Is that official, is that procedure supposed to be followed? Because what I've seen since I've been coming here, right, that those packages do not come in a week before
A week
or 2 weeks before. It's usually like yesterday, it was 3 o'clock and they were still not out, right? So I'm not sure if you get them earlier, or is there a way that I can come a week before and get the package physically instead of having to wait for it to be online? So that's question number one. So you do get them before, I guess? Okay, okay. And then my other comment is regarding, I guess, the perception that folks that are asking these procedural questions, how does this really supposed to work? What are the processes and basically the processes that you guys use to approve or to do your meetings or to make your choices seem to be perceived as anti-growth and expansion of Elbert County. It seems like when we ask questions of how these decisions are made and why they're made, it seems like it's on a position of the growth, and I want to make sure that understand that we are not anti-growth, right? We are, or at least I am not, right? I'm looking for a county that's thriving, growing, a great place to be. It's about the growth that is strategic in terms of that we're growing, not only thinking short-term, but long-term effects of that growth and how it's done in the right way, because we all want this vibrant, full of energy, right, Elbert County. We don't want just to be this little sleepy county, right? It's really about doing things the right way, right? And making sure that the best interests of the county are taken at heart, right, by the people that are making the choices, right? And it's hard sometimes because, the developer has his interests, and that's valid, right? They're here to make money. The planning folks are a private company that also works for the developers, right? So they have contracts with the county, but they also have contracts with the developer. So they're not necessarily looking out for the best interest. So it's up to you, right, to make sure that you're taking care of the best interests of the county. And sometimes the lack of understanding, I guess maybe what Liz was saying, right, the decisions that get made and the way things are done is not clear. That's where we come in to ask questions and to look for documentation and to look, what is the foundation of this choice? For example, right, this DGA 3, 178, 182 thing, right? The answer you gave us for the last year is that section lines were county roads. Well, it turns out that in 1963, Elbert County.
Sir, you're straying into issues that you're a party to a lawsuit against the county, so I'd ask you to move away from those.
It's independent of a lawsuit. I'm still a citizen, right?
That was
Yes,
actually
but
part.
that is a specific,
If
Our
we can-
our county line, our section lines are supposed to be roads, or was that rescinded in 1963?
Commissioners,
Sir,
we do not
We
need to be
cannot
getting into these
discuss
sort of
this. We
issues.
cannot
If
get into these
Mr.
issues
Alvarez
here.
has questions, he's got counsel, and he should go through
Well,
counsel for those.
This is a
particular
straight question, right?
You've got
This
counsel
is public
representing-
information, right?
Okay, sir, you've got counsel representing you in all those cases. All right?
This is not a question about council, this is a citizen thing, right?
Mhm.
Our section lines designated as county roads.
Sir, you asked a question. That's what we're dealing with in this litigation. So,
Yeah.
okay, this is a public comment time. You've had 3 minutes. All right, we appreciate your comments. Okay, I would say get with your representation and go through them. The attorney
You are
that's
my
representing you-
representation, right?
You were represented by an attorney at this point. So, sir, if you could, please, let's sit down and let's get on with our meeting. We will take that into consideration through the right channels.
So you cannot answer a statutory question from the county. Are section lines designated as roads?
Sir, we're not gonna get into the discussion here.
It's not a discussion, it's just a
You
question.
asked a question.
Do you know, as a county
Sir.
commissioner, what the statutes here in the
Sir.
county are?
Mr. Alvarez, we're not, okay.
So the answer is
Not
no.
gonna answer your question here.
You don't know the answer.
I'm not gonna state either way. All right,
Yeah, we will.
we will the next time we were allowing people to speak. So, at this point, do we have any more comments? No? Okay. On with discussion items. I think we have an update from our Veteran Services Office.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Those who don't know me, my name is Rick Morgan. I've had the honor and the privilege of being your County Veteran Service Officer since 1998. I want to pass out some handouts here. I know that the commissioners have copies already. So back in 1998, actually I was still in uniform, and I was asked by Ms. Charlotte Heinz, who was then a member of this board, to go ahead and stand in for a gentleman who had been the county veteran service officer, who had bad health and left the county to go back to the Midwest somewhere. And because I was still in uniform, I couldn't accept any money for the job that I took over in 1998. And ever since, this has been an all-volunteer office of one chief, one Indian, and that was me. So, and that's been just fine. The function of this office has always been to help veterans and their families secure the veterans' benefits that they are richly entitled to. And it's been a privilege to be part of that process as we go along. Right now, we've got about 2,300 vets in the county. And we add to that population about 70 vets a year on average. It happens in 2017, we picked up about 60 vets, so a slightly lower number of vets. But that's been a consistent growth pattern. And you should know that both in El Paso County, down in Colorado Springs, and to the north of us in Arapahoe and Adams County, even in Denver County, all of those veterans populations are slowly declining over time. But it's not true in Elbert County. In Elbert County, we continue to see that increase, that growth trend of about 70 vets or so per year, not 2017 notwithstanding. And what I want to show you today is kind of the 50,000-foot perspective on what's going on with regards to veterans benefits. As a general matter of course, I have about 150 cases that are open that I'm kind of tracking and monitoring. But about 24 cases I'm actually working actively, waiting for a response from a doctor's office or something in that vein on a month-to-month basis. Across the board, next slide please. Across the board, the VA reports expenditures in Elbert County for all sources of veterans benefits. And I want to be very clear that as the veteran benefits flow into Elbert County, there are a lot of oars in the water. Not just the County Veteran Service Office. There's the VFW folks, American Legion, Disabled American Veterans, who all contribute to this process of getting veterans enrolled in part of the benefits process for which they're entitled. That having been said, very commonly a veteran will sign up with one outfit, might be DAV or VFW, and then over time they will come to our office for reevaluations or for expansion of benefits for hearing aids, other kinds of things like that. As we take a look at this, when I first came on board down here in 1998, after the first year I actually retired in 99, and then my position was formalized. In 2000, I made a promise to the board that my long-term goal would be to increase the amount of veterans benefits coming into the county by at least $300,000 a year. Okay? We are right now at an average, a 20-year average of just over $450,000 a year. So I'm able to beat that goal by a significant amount. So in that same period of time, we've gone from 800 vets to triple that number to about 2,300, roughly triple to 2,300. In that same time frame, we have increased the amount of veterans benefits flowing into the county by a factor of 10. Okay, so we're now just over $10 million a year that comes into the county to help veterans and their families. Last year we had an increase of $512,000 in terms of veterans benefits, even though we only had 60 new vets. So we saw a slight decrease in the number of veterans, but we saw a jump in the amount of benefits coming in. So we're very pleased, I'm very pleased with that, and I hope you are as well. Next slide, please. As the VA reports those expenditures each year, this is the latest data we have, it's from 2017, and I want to show you how that $10 million shakes out. I was afraid it wouldn't show up too well. Can you see that from the far part of the room? So essentially here you have disability compensation and pension. So that's for veterans who have a service-connected disability. They may have been injured by a mine in combat or something like that, and they're getting benefits directly from the VA. That's called disability compensation. And pension classically is for the widow of a veteran who is indigent and is receiving payments from the VA as a result of her husband, or conversely the other spouse, service in the military. So this is money, about $6 million a year, that goes directly into the pocket of the veteran or directly into the pocket of the family. And that money is then spent in the community at grocery stores and gas stations or wherever else it might be. On the other hand, this figure right here is not money that's actually going into the pocket of the veteran, but it's money that's not coming out of their pocket because they get veterans treatment through the VA hospital or the VA clinic system. So that $4 million figure is hearing aids and medical tests and those kinds of things that are going to veterans and in some cases to their families that would not otherwise, they would have to pay for otherwise. And then we have a small fraction down here with regards to education, about $800,000 to help educate veterans for their bachelor's degree or a certificate of some sort, whatever it might be. We have a very tiny fraction which represents a couple of loans here, veterans loans on homes here in the county where legal fees were paid for by the VA. So I would like to say that for a volunteer department that doesn't cost the county a dime, receiving what is the return on investment on that what's money that's flowing into the County Veteran Service Office, the return on investment is substantial. The last page in the handout that I passed out was the 2017 breakout. Next slide, please. And it's not intended to be an eye chart, although if the person in the back of the room would hold one eye, but if you take a look at the paper copy, it simply gives the figures, and in each instance, all the VA figures going back for the whole period of time that I've shown you here are available on their website reported by the VA. So that's where we are today. I spend a lot of my time, if I were to break out the kinds of veterans by conflict, we have probably about 5% of the veterans are World War II veterans, about 10% are Korea veterans, and the remainder are split between First Gulf War, Vietnam, and Iraq, Afghan folks. Probably the predominance of veterans that I deal with nowadays are First Gulf War veterans, about 35%. But we're seeing a gradual increase in Iraq and Afghan veterans. Right now about 30%. We expect to see more than that over time, simply as World War II vets age. The World War II vets, just a word on World War II vets right now, we spent a lot of time in a new VA initiative to try to keep those very senior veterans in their homes. And that means providing them with local resources, which translates into jobs, by the way. With local resources to care for them in their home, because we've come to learn that veterans who are able to stay in the home, as it is true for any elderly citizens, they live longer, they stay healthier, and they have better and easier access to their children and their grandchildren, and in the case of World War II veterans, their great-grandchildren. So that's a wonderful initiative, and we spent a lot of time trying to accomplish that here. I invite any questions that you might have. Thank you for the honor and the privilege of being able to do this job all this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any comments up here? No. Good, thank you. Do you have any public comment on our Veteran Service Officer and our information he gave?
Yeah, actually, I'm gonna take one. And this is Diane too. But Rick is just a tremendous asset to the county. He, provided some good information. He's never one that's really gonna kind of toot his own horn. But as a volunteer, the feedback I get, folks I've talked to, he gives an extraordinary amount of time to our veterans. Days, weeks, hours to folks. Gentleman out at Simla, I know he spent a tremendous amount of time just helping him prepare end-of-life type things, making sure everything that could be locked in is locked in for his surviving spouse when the time comes. And that's not a unique situation. It's just, bang for the buck when the bucks we put in is zero. And all of your heart, I do appreciate that.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right, no public comment? All right, on to the next one. Let's go to our proposed county ordinances. I believe we have 3, so.
That's going to be me, Commissioners, Bart Greer, County Attorney. As you can see within your packets, there are 3 proposed new ordinances. Essentially the new ordinance that supplements the previous ordinance already in place with regard to marijuana. There have been a couple of changes in the near past that really needed to be addressed as part of the county's comprehensive regulations on that issue. At the same time, we wanted to make sure that we differentiated hemp and industrial hemp because even though many folks and organizations actually conflate the two, they are 2 very different things. And so we wanted to make sure that we had regulations that were very clear with regard to hemp. That's something that is happening within the county, and it's something that we want to allow both an opportunity for health and safety to be addressed with regard to that aspect of the growth of hemp, but also provide some clarification as it pertains to regulations and what's expected of those individuals that are engaging in cultivation of industrial hemp. Similarly, there's what we would refer to as the disorderly house ordinance, and that is yet another ordinance that's, as we grow, we really do need to address some of the growth issues that come along with increased populations. And so at this point, having the full draft ordinances and final ordinances to commissioners under Colorado Revised Statute 30-15-407, as those have been delivered to all 3 of you, reading essentially the title of the proposed ordinance after that has been delivered to you satisfies the need for reading of the ordinance under that particular statute. So I did want to make note of that and reference that particular statute. Additionally, Commissioners, I would ask that you find that all 3 of these ordinances are necessary for the immediate preservation of public health, safety, and welfare. So in adoption, I'd ask that you make that finding or go ahead and adopt my language with regard to that. Also, I would also ask that you direct staff to move forward with publication of those 3 ordinances in the county's paper of record. And we can certainly do that in the near future, but I'd simply ask for that direction from the 3 of you. And so I can certainly ask or answer any questions that that you deem appropriate, but I think for the most part, those ordinances should be pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, and I know the kind of the adoption process for ordinances is a little different than regulatory. There's publication, there's multiple readings, public hearings to adopt, I believe. So is the publication this considered a first reading, or?
This should be considered a first reading, Commissioner.
Okay.
Also, again, that specific language that I referred to, which is that these ordinances are necessary for the immediate preservation of public health, safety, and welfare, essentially helps those ordinances, I guess, if you are looking at the adoption process, essentially move into regulatory effect sooner because of that finding. And that's one of the highest and best responsibilities that the 3 of you do have, is to safeguard public health, safety, welfare. And so that is something that, again, just those particular words and that language associated with these ordinances is important. But also, yes, we would want to go ahead and publish after this meeting and go ahead and look at them again going forward.
So if I
If we
understand
publish
correctly, we're
them,
not
this can't be the first reading.
Just giving you, requesting that you.
So you may,
the process.
so Commissioner Thayer, you may adopt them today. You could. You don't have to, but you certainly could if you deem those to be necessary for the immediate preservation of health, safety, and welfare.
It's an action item, but I think
So, or we can wait and formally adopt at the next meeting as well. Either of those is fine.
Yeah,
And so if that's your preference, what I would simply ask for at this point then is to be directed to go ahead and publish those in our
Publish
paper of
those.
record.
Can we consider this the first reading even though we haven't published them?
Yes.
We can?
Yes.
Okay.
So do we need a motion for that?
Well,
Yeah, I think just.
I would say we have a motion that between the 3 of us to request staff to post these
And declare them
and
public.
declare them a public document, public.
Life health, yeah.
You wanna make
Health,
the motion?
welfare, yeah. Okay,
And then I'll ask for comment, okay?
yeah. Okay, Mr. Chair, I would move that we actually declare these 3 ordinances as necessary for life, health, and welfare of the public, and that we direct staff publication for further readings and consideration.
Okay, do we have a second?
Yes, second.
Second? Okay, now, do we have any discussion up here? Any comments up here?
Yeah, I mean, I know, Bart, you kind of gave a high-level overview, but as I read through the marijuana one updates, one we currently have on the books, but it takes into consideration changes in statute and case law since 64 had passed. Hemp just kind of separates out the reality of the situation that it's an agricultural crop, and I think
Correct.
this last election, there was a change to the Colorado Constitution that takes the local state definition out and tracks. I think it's appropriate to do so. And then, the disorderly house piece had come up before. There's been some changes based on initial public comment that we received on that, and it looks good to me.
That's right. And one other thing that I want to do or need to do, but I will respond to your comment, Commissioner.
Okay.
Yes, there have been several changes since our last marijuana regulations have gone into effect, and so those have been addressed in this proposed ordinance. The hemp ordinance in particular has been something we've been looking at for at least a year, if not more.
Yes.
And we've gone out, commissioners and other staff have gone out to actual hemp cultivation grows and spoken with people, and we continue to speak with stakeholders that are engaged in hemp cultivation. So the delineation between marijuana and industrial hemp or hemp in general is very important, and that is true for making sure that we have clarification for law enforcement, code enforcement, and just general members of the public to have clarification as to what the expectations are going forward. And so I will, in reference to that statutory provision 30-15-407, will simply name the actual ordinances and their titles. The first being an Elbert County ordinance regulating disorderly conduct in locations and regulating noise pollution, as well as establishing penalties. That's the what we refer to as the disorderly house ordinance. Second would be an Elbert County ordinance to regulate cultivation and processing of industrial hemp, repealing all ordinances and resolutions in conflict therewith, and providing penalties for violation thereof. Again, that's with reference to hemp, and making sure that we don't have contrary regulations that are in conflict with that. And the third that I will simply read is an Elbert County ordinance to regulate the cultivation of marijuana on residential properties, in residential structures and accessory structures, on residential property on vacant or unoccupied land, and on non-residential, prohibiting the operation of marijuana cultivation facilities, marijuana product manufacturing facilities, marijuana testing facilities, or retail marijuana stores or businesses and property, and requiring registration of caregivers within unincorporated Elbert County, state of Colorado, repealing and replacing ordinance numbers 13-01 and 11-14, and that's again specifically referencing our prior regulations that we've needed to update for a while.
Okay. No. I was going to ask, the one thing on the disorderly house, when that was brought to us before, I'd done some research and went to different municipalities and counties. They have similar documents. They're using the same thing. It truly are.
It is pretty. It is a pretty common regulation to have either in a municipality or by way of a county.
Okay.
It's something that was brought to us essentially by the sheriff's department.
Right, it was.
Something that is another tool in the toolbox that's been necessary, and so we've been again looking at this for probably a year or more.
It has. So. Do we have public comment on any of these three ordinances? All right, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, on to the next one, update.
This is a quick question. To go through the rest of the process, is that going to take 3 months?
Oh, no, sir.
No.
It should go fairly quickly.
Is this the first reading? You'll
Correct.
post. What's the posting time?
At least 10 days.
10 days.
Correct.
We'll have the second reading.
Yes, and we should be able to adopt
And right
it
after the
at
second
that
reading,
point.
you should be able to adopt it.
Yeah. And if I recall, if there are changes from what's published, we then publish.
We then publish those
any
Publish
changes.
those changes.
Yeah.
That's correct.
All right, on to the next one, the update on the adoption of the IBC code, 2018 IBC. Rory?
Commissioners, Rory Hale, Director of Public Works. As you know, the building department has been diligently going through literally a mound of new codes for 2018. There's several administrative changes that they're proposing. We've met with all the fire districts and had discussion about those. Matter of fact, we had a meeting, was it last Monday? I think last Monday with all the chiefs. Everybody's on board. There was a couple of couple of concerns that the fire marshal and Elizabeth had, but we've addressed those. What we intend to do this afternoon is have a meeting to discuss a little more in depth of what those administrative changes are. Fire districts will be here with the intent of adoption, preferably this year, with the actual kickoff the first of the new year. So we're making progress.
Yeah, I'd just ask when these do come to us, if we really just highlight the pieces that we're not adopting or what we're altering
Right.
locally and the reasoning.
And that's in there. The reason I haven't sent it to you at this point is because it may be a little confusing. There's several changes, but Faith's done a good job of putting those together. So again, once we discuss that this afternoon, then we'll go ahead and forward those to you for your review and comment. But I think they've done a good job. I think there's a lot of stuff in there that they took out because it is Elbert County to show a little more flexibility, but that's not going to prohibit us in the future of adding those back in as the development and growth comes. So I think they've done a good job.
Yeah. Just remind me, what series code are we on now? It's 2006? Six.
Yeah, 6.
Okay, yeah. So it's long overdue.
Yeah, it is. It is.
And then there will be some discussion about how this relates to the fee schedule.
There can be, yes. Yes.
And along with us, there's other agencies or towns, they're going through the same thing too.
Right.
Right, so when we do this, we'll all be together on this.
Right. Right. Yeah, and the biggest concern we had was specific to the fire districts.
Right.
And it, actually, we were looking at, I don't remember which one they were proposing, maybe the 2016 code, and actually Elizabeth Fire District suggested that we may as well just go ahead and go with the 2018.
2018.
I have had discussion with a couple of the developers, the bigger developers that are doing work in the county, and they don't have any issues with it because all the other municipalities around us are utilizing the 2018 code as well. Okay? Thanks, gentlemen.
All right, thank you. You guys have any comments? You made your comments? Good. Do we have any public comment on our adoption of the IBC code? No? Okay, on to the next one.
So next week, that'll be an action item, our next meeting, that'll be an action item?
If we're,
That's the intent.
yeah,
Solely up to you.
if we get to that point, right?
We've got a little bit of time to work with if necessary, so I think as long as we get it adopted as close to the first of the year as possible, I think we're in good shape.
Okay. Thank you. All right, 2018, I think we're on the 2018 general election.
Good morning, Commissioners. Dallas Schroeder, Elbert County Clerk and Recorder. I just want to share with you some of the things that happened for us during the 2018 election. Thus far, we're not quite ready to put the election to bed yet, but we're a long ways down that path. So I'll share some numbers, share some things that happened, and then kind of give you an outline of what is still left for us to do. Thus far, we have received 14,482 ballots, which is a good turnout for us. We have requirements on election day to have mobile voter, or not mobile, but voter service and polling centers in remote locations. We had those at Spring Valley and Elizabeth Town Hall this year. We had 80 in-person voters at Spring Valley, 80 at the town of Elizabeth, pretty coincidental. But total numbers were 346 that came in person, so the balance came in here to our office to do that. And what that shows me is that people are understanding they can do that, but they're being careful with their ballot, and they're either dropping it off to us or putting it in the mail, because we're getting less and less people actually coming out to those mobile centers. We received, through the mail, 4,852 ballots. We have an Elizabeth 24-hour drop box, which we received 5,116 ballots. And at our location here between our, in the office and outside our 24-hour box, there was 4,132 ballots. So that's pretty close to the third between those those three areas. One of the exciting numbers for us, with the total numbers of ballots that we sent out, almost 19,500 ballots that we've sent out and issued. We only have 3,645 that didn't come back to us. So we have a very, very high turnout in the county this year. As always, we have a great support for people within that helps us with the elections. We worked very hard with both Democrat and Republican parties getting good quality judges. I think we have judges I'd put up against anybody in the state. I'd feel very comfortable going anywhere in the state with our judges and knowing that we could do a bang-up job. And I just want to recognize those people because they do a great job for a little pay, but they're dedicated and unified regardless of party to make sure that the election process is fair and accurate and that every vote is counted and counted accurately. So those people that helped us were Milt Johnson, Mary Robin Wills, Margie White, Wendy Walp, Peter Hogendijk, Amanda Moore, Beth Wilcox, Robert Thomason, Tracy Ducharme, Karen Suchin, Brad Eit, Alan Krennick, Patty Lampman, Susan Schick, Jill Duvall, Brenda Abbott, Jerry Moranville, Donna Moranville, and Julie McDermott. And if you happen to know any of those people on that list, please thank them because it's a thankless job, work long hours, especially on election day. We have to be open from 7 to 7, and then many of those judges that have been out since early morning come back and help tabulate ballots until we're finished. They're also our biggest advocates for us in the election process. As they understand what's going on, so ask them questions. They know what's going on in that accounting room. They know what we're doing and know that it's being done right. I also want to point out that our canvas board this year is Jim Duvall and Gary Mayfield. Their responsibilities are just starting to begin. Originally, they have to certify the machines, that the machines are counting correctly and all that good stuff. But as we wrap up the election, they have to be part of the post-election audit, which we'll do on Friday. And statewide audit. And so we're also dependent on the 63 other counties in state that they do it correctly. I know Elbert will do it correctly, but we're kind of dependent on them the audit. So those two guys, their job has just begun. And those are the two guys, along with my signature, are the ones that will actually certify the election as being complete. Hopefully we'll be able to do that before Thanksgiving. The legislature this past term did extend our deadline 1 week because of the Thanksgiving holiday. So in the case that we have to go to more than 2 or 3 different rounds in the audit, we'll have time to do that after Thanksgiving. I also want to point out office staff that we used in the election, Nicole Love and Debbie Inholson. Both of those ladies are willing to jump in at any time and help out and did a terrific job. And in fact, Nicole helped staff one of our VSPCs all day. It's kind of going above and beyond what we normally ask staff to do, but we appreciate their efforts. I also want to point out Jen Grote and Phoenix were terrific partners for us. They always work hard with us. We have our preliminary meetings to make sure everything is working like it's supposed to. There's always little glitches here and there, connectivity or whatever, but they're always responsive. They send someone to us right away, and it's a great partnership, and they support us very, very well. They even have someone here on site with us on election day and into election night just in case we do have issues, which we didn't, but it's nice for them to offer that service. I also wanted to point out that Sean Carpenter, Keith, and Adam do a lot of behind-the-scenes work for us. Things that we ask them to do, they do without question. They jump right in, and it just helps everything move along much smoother. I do want to specifically point out the town of Elizabeth has been a great partner for us this year. If you remember, commissioners, we selected an IGA for our 24-hour drop box to be there as long as both parties were happy with it. I was at their meeting last night. I believe they're satisfied with what we're doing. I know we've been pleased with the response we've had from them. And also then having the Voter Service Center there worked out well. So we want to recognize them as being great partners with us in the election. And also Spring Valley Golf Course, this is the third election that we've had a Voter Service Center up at Spring Valley. Justin and the folks up there have always been very good to us, very responsive, pretty much allow us to have a run of the upper floor for the entire day. The ladies there this year were even a little bit chilly, and they turned the fireplace on for them, so they kind of go above and beyond as well, so we want to recognize them. We did something a little bit new this year. that there was only one other county that had one of these, and that was a mobile voting unit. The Denver Elections Division has considerably more money than the elections in Elbert County, and so they just purchased one. But we have to go beg, borrow, and steal to have a mobile service center. And Sheriff Shane Heap graciously allowed us to use the mobile command post this year. We were in 3 locations. We were down in Simla, up at the Rattlesnake Firehouse, and at their training facility, and then also down in the town of Elbert. And that mobile voting center, we'll continue to evaluate that and see how that works, but it's something that we had running from 3 to 7 on those days we were there, hoping to catch people as they came home from work. But as a voting service center, that's just like at our office. They can register to vote, they can pick up a ballot, they can vote in person. Anything that they could do at our office, they could do at that mobile site. So that was kind of exciting. We were right there with Denver elections. That's pretty cool. Also want to point out the election staff that we have between Rhonda Braun and Rachel Buchanan are tremendous. They work tirelessly. They work many, many hours, and leading up to the election and during the election. Even this year, Rachel was sick, and we couldn't even drag her out of the office. She said, no, there's stuff that's got to be done. I'm going to be there. And those 2 ladies do a terrific job in organizing, getting everything together. And it's just a pleasure to work with them. It's a pleasure to work with our judges. We have a fun time, but I know that the results that we put out are correct and accurate, and that's what we're looking for.
All right. Any comment on our elections? No.
Well,
It's
never
I didn't do the done part.
What?
Today, our lead judges, Milt Johnson and Robert Thomason, will be coming in and finish scanning the last ballots that have come in. From those of you here during the primary, we get ballots that come in from other counties and those sort of things. Today's the last day for those to come in and for signature verification or cures for people that the judges rejected their signature, and also for the Ocava ballots for us to receive those. And so those 2 gentlemen will come in, they'll finish running the ballots, and then we'll have a final number of what we have. Friday, we will start doing our first round of our audit.
Your canvas?
Well, one step at a time. First, we got to do the audit, and then we'll start that on Friday. Because it is a statewide race and it's all kind of proportional how it is, we won't have that many ballots to audit. So I don't anticipate that taking a lot of time on Friday. But as I said earlier, that's dependent on the rest of the state getting it right as well. And so we can't do the canvas, and that's where we go through and certify the election until we have a green light from the Secretary of State that everybody has passed the audit. And so at that point, we'll come in, Jim and Gary will come in, we'll sit down, we'll go over all the numbers, show them how we're balanced, and we're balanced 100% to the T. Right now, and I don't anticipate that to change with Robert and Milt doing the work this afternoon. It'll be 100% balanced. They can go through and see exactly what happened. We actually include them in the audit so they understand what's going through with the audit as well. And then at that point, when they're satisfied, the 3 of us will sign the certification of election, and it'll be complete. So hopefully before Thanksgiving, but there's always that possibility it might not be.
Yeah. One, I think I applaud the effort with the mobile van. I know there wasn't a lot of turnout, but I think if we keep doing it, more people will
I think,
take
it's
advantage
just
of
like
it.
anything else. The first time you do it, it takes a little bit to get the word out. We tried through social media, website, different places, put in all the voter instructions. So try not to insult the voter in general, but they generally don't read the voter instructions.
Yeah.
But we try everything we can, and it was the people that came out and dropped the ballots, we didn't have anybody vote, but they did drop their ballots, and all the locations were very appreciative that we were making the effort.
Yeah. Just on the tail end when it's done, do you get many that come in by mail after the cutoff, or that can't be counted because they didn't mail them on time?
Currently, we have 16 ballots that we received after Election Day through the mail.
That's a good low number, but I guess we'll just continue to push out, because it's about a week ahead that the
and the Secretary of State's office has done well at publicizing that. We've put out what we can. The general rule of thumb now is about a week before you need to be dropping it off, not mailing it. And that's actually from the post office. I know the Secretary of State's office has worked hard with the post office, even sending a delegation to Washington to talk to them. And even the post office said, you need to tell people they need to be a week beforehand, and
Yeah. No,
just leave it at that.
17's not bad, it's a shame, but it's not bad. Yeah. Thanks.
Maybe you want to move to Florida.
If I could take my election judges and go to Florida, we'd get it straight.
All right. Do we have any public comment? No. All right, on to our National Weather Service recognition. I think we've got Alex.
Alex Jakubowski, Director of Emergency Management. Just real quick, one of my major objectives for 2018 was to improve the preparedness and alert and warning section for our residents. So with the help of Greg Hansen from the National Weather Service and Corey Stark from Department of Homeland Security Emergency Management, we got Elbert County certified for Storm Ready, which basically is just a step-by-step review of all the alert and warning, weather monitoring, all those aspects to figure out what weather is coming and then notify the public through a variety of means. So we passed the very rigorous certification process, and Elbert County is now officially storm ready. And so we have a certificate from the National Weather Service, and then a large placard that we can post somewhere to let the residents know that we're not only monitoring, but we can also push out, directions and actions that they need to take should that prove hazardous. So if it would be convenient, I think we'd like to get a quick photo op, commissioners with the certificate, and Corey and Greg. Would you like to say anything?
Yeah, it's been great working with Alex on this. Like he said, it's a checklist we go through. How many ways do you have to receive warnings, to monitor the weather, to push them out to the people you serve? Do you have a plan? Do you have a place to receive the warnings, all that? The thing that I really like about it too, though, is it establishes a personal connection between Alex and I and Corey. So Alex knows who to call. He's going to come by our office. He'll get to meet the forecasters he's talking to at 2 o'clock in the morning if we have a flash flood or something. It gives us an understanding of how the things work in your county. So, while it is the checkbox and the form we fill out, it's that, to me, the personal connection that really is the big payoff from this going forward. So I'd like to thank Alex for all his good work making this happen.
Go to the photo corner.
Yeah.
All right, everybody ready?
One of these ought to turn out.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4.5, 5. All right. Everybody good? Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys. Congratulations. I can say we're ready. Good to see you. Thanks, Trish.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'm just going to say one thing that was mentioned that's probably paramount in emergency management was just the building of relationships. When something bad happens in this county or elsewhere, everybody shows up. But if that's the first time you've met people and the first time you're trying to work with people in the dark of the night or when things are at their worst, it's the wrong time to be meeting people. So Alex, I thank you for what you're doing to make sure that these relationships are built. So when something does happen, we know who we can depend on. So thanks. Yeah.
Good, that was good, good. Alex, thank you. Okay, let's see. Any public comment? Okay. All right, on to action items. We pulled off the minutes. We're gonna have to add those to board planning. Okay. Consideration of appointments to Elbert County Building Authority.
Commissioners, I'll take this. Back in 2016, there was a approval of a Elbert County Building Authority. That is a nonprofit set up for the county to take care of certain requirements for bonding and financing and dealing with buildings for the county. This one was specifically, I think, geared toward the Justice Center. The people that were appointed as the board members for that are no longer available, so we need to make new appointments for the Elbert County Building Authority, and we're actually recommending 4. I'm going to modify that and strike 1 and recommend 3 people to be approved for the directors to the Elbert County Building Authority. The members of the Elbert County Building Authority are yourselves. The copy of the bylaws are also included in this in your packet. So with that, we recommend that you appoint myself, Sam Albrecht, Christina Stanton, and Michelle Schrody as the Elbert County Building Authority officers.
Okay.
Cool.
Any comment on that? That's good. Do you have any? No? Cool. All right, what we'll do, let's get a motion.
Okay.
In a second, then I'll ask for public comment.
Alrighty. Mr. Chair, I move that we adopt resolution 18- to be determined, a resolution appointing directors to the Elbert County Building Authority as presented with one change, and that was to strike member number 3, Justin Clausen.
Clausen from the. Give a second. Second. Okay. All right, on that, we didn't have any comments. Is there any public comment on this? No. Okay. Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thank you, Sam. Next one, fire service, district inclusion fee. I think Bart's good.
Bart Greer, County Attorney. Commissioners, we did speak about this at the last County Commissioner meeting, but to provide a brief overview, there are areas of land in the less populous areas of Elbert County that are affectionately referred to as no man's land, and essentially what that means is there's not fire district coverage in those areas at present. That doesn't mean that they're any less prone to fires of various sorts, however, and we have had fires in these areas, and that's presented a problem for neighbors and the residents that are close to these particular areas. And there are fire service districts which are close by, and so the push or the intent has really been to try and have folks join those fire service districts. That is one possibility, but it's either not feasible or something that everybody obviously wants to do. And so we have come up with alternative regulations which allow people to essentially make their choice as to joining a fire district or paying a cash in lieu fee, which would cover firefighting services for those particular no man land areas. And that's going to be required once the subject property is trying to acquire building permits for that particular property, specifically either with regard to residential permits and possibly others as well. That depends on you guys. So that's really what we're looking at, is trying to incentivize folks to either have some sort of bond or that they've paid that would essentially cover services responding to their property, or they would be part of fire service district, and that is in essence to help life's health, safety, welfare, preservation. So many of you may remember the Bradbury fire. That issue really brought some of these some of the problems associated with that to the forefront, and that's what this is intended to address. So again, there's either a fee that folks may pay to get their building permits, and they don't necessarily have to join a fire service district if they're not already part of one, but they'd have to do that if they want to get a building permit, be legal, or simply go and join the fire service district that's close by.
You wanted to comment on this? Yeah, I'd like to make a comment, and I think this is great. The one thing that I'm a little concerned about is that each of these, what do you call them, no man's land or something like that, areas are in very agricultural situations. And I understand development's coming in this kind of thing. Your little comment in there about outbuildings greater than 900 feet, square feet, requiring the $20,000 or almost $20,000 worth of fees. I have a little bit of an objection to. You could have 900 square feet could be a 20 by 45 calving shed that's only 3-sided and that kind of thing, and it wouldn't cost more than $10,000 to build. The idea that you'd have to put up almost $20,000 to protect something like that that is unlikely to be a fire source, I think, is wrong. Either we need to better define agriculture-related buildings, or we need to limit this to residential. And I think for residential, I'm absolutely totally in favor of this fee.
So Commissioner Thayer, the overriding purpose is to protect health, safety.
DJ, how are you?
Good, sir. Thank you, Chairman Wilcox. Commissioners, my name is TJ Steck. I'm the Fire Chief for the Elizabeth Fire Protection District, and today I'll be representing the Elbert County Fire Chiefs Association, which makes up the 7 fire agencies based in Elbert County. So I can make a statement or happy to answer any questions. It would be your choice.
Well, I guess
You called me up here.
question would be,
Yeah.
does this,
This is awesome.
Does this help? That's
Yeah.
what,
Yeah.
please.
When council referenced the Bradbury fire, if everybody remembers that fire, that was in no man's land, or as the statutes prefer to call it, unincorporated Elbert County. So there's two determinations of unincorporated that people confuse. Unincorporated many times in people's mind mean they're not in a municipality. However, the statutes under Title 30 reference unincorporated as any area that doesn't have a fire protection district covering them. So the statutes allow in those unincorporated areas for wildland, prairie, forest fire related fires that the sheriff has the authority to take command of that fire or to summon the help of other fire districts to put it out. That's cool if the other fire districts have the ability and the resources to do that. And as we evolve in Elbert County, there's many times we may not have those resources. available. The caveat to that is that the fire protection districts, when they do respond, like they did in the Bradbury fire, have the statutory authority to bill or seek reimbursement for that fire. I don't recall the exact number, and we've been working with Bart to come up with the number for the Bradbury fire, but it was roughly 20,000, and we were very accommodating on that cost. We didn't collect any of the costs together for the contributing agencies that were outside of the county. So the Arapahoe County agencies that responded did not seek reimbursement. The issue is when we all work together as these agencies, as fire protection districts. We have mutual aid agreements. The agreements work very well. We offer each other services without cost to our taxpayers. The intent there is we can't all do it on our own. We'll go help an agency one day with understanding that that agency will come help us the next day. So the agreements work very well. But in the unincorporated areas in the county, there are no agreements. In fact, there's really no fire protection or EMS coverage there. So if somebody were to call 911 in those unincorporated areas, technically they may not receive any assistance. And that's scary to all of us. What we appreciate about this effort is not the fee so much. The fee would be to offset the fire protection districts from coming to the county and saying, where's our money, and fighting that way. What the fees secondary. The goal that the fire districts would have would be to get these areas into a fire protection district so that they can get the coverage and the services they need to get, to take care of them. It's not a money grab. In fact, it's not a winning. Including rural property and agricultural property is actually a tax on the service because there's not a lot of tax revenue that comes in, but it increases a lot of acreage that a fire protection district has to cover. So there may be some areas that choose not to or simply can't include into a fire protection district. And the second option then, that's I believe why the intent or the spirit of that second option is to allow those property owners to buy in to a bond or a cash of money that would allow the other districts to reimburse.
So are you comfortable with designated for residential permits?
Yes, depending on the number. I mean, if the numbers stay the way they are, then yes. Because keep in mind, under the statute, when the sheriff in unincorporated areas asks the fire protection districts to respond, that reimbursement goes to the property owner really. So the bonding of this funds eliminates that property owner of going, I can't pay you, I'm not paying you. This is paid up front to where it's available for the fire protection districts to recover costs. I will tell you, just about every month at my elected officials meeting, my board asks me if we're ever getting paid from Bradbury. And I'm tired of answering that question. So this is a really good step forward to alleviate that pain.
I think all you guys were part of it. I think there was a lot of discussion went on between the fire chiefs and
We had a great meeting. Probably last Monday was the best meeting I've had in my 29 years with the fire department, including county leadership, and it was really productive. We discussed a number of different topics, and all of the fire chiefs were able to work through productive issues. So at that point, the fire chiefs at that meeting authorized me to represent them in supporting it today.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
So let's you make the motion, Chris make the second, I'll ask for comment. All right.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt Resolution 18- to be determined fire district inclusion coverage with one modification. And the modification would be that the fee would be restricted to the issuance of a building permit for residential properties.
Second.
Okay, now.
Not residential properties, residential construction. Yeah.
Yes. Do we have any public comment on this? No? All right. Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right.
Can I ask one more question? If somebody wants, if one of these no man's places wants to get included into a district, what do they have to do? And I'm sorry, I should have asked that before, but it's been troubling me.
TJ Steck, Elizabeth Fire Department. It's a good question. It's a fairly simple process, as long as there's one property owner involved. If there are, let's say, Highlands Ranch, what they just went through with Highlands Ranch, including into another fire protection district, that requires it's a very complex election process. When there's typically 1 to 5 or 1 to 10 property owners that want to do it, then it's just a majority request from that area to include. And then, believe it or not, it's less political and more legal at that point. So then there's an inclusion process that would have to go to the court system. We would petition the court to allow the process to occur, and then if the courts approve that and it were in place, then it's a fairly simple 1 or 2 page legal document process to get it through.
So if being included in a mill levy wouldn't require a Tabor election or anything like that?
No, they would be agreeing to those mill levies in the inclusion agreement.
And the individual owner, let's say there's an individual owner of a property, can request that also and go through that process, right? They don't have to
Correct.
approve.
Yeah, we currently have an individual that owns a property that's asking to include into our district that's in no man's land. And it's a pretty simple process. The only inconvenience is that you have to petition through the courts, but it's not a high cost to get it
Now,
done.
you can't, and again, I'm asking more questions than I'm entitled to, but are you entitled as your district to say, no, we don't want you?
Yes, we are. And in fact, I don't know if the district probably shouldn't say we don't want you, but we could certainly say we don't have the resources to serve you. So it's more of a will serve type component. And I think you might see that in the north central area out there where an agency is starved for resources and doesn't have enough volunteers. They may be going, we're not able to take any more resources. So that property owner may be required to look to another district or simply go to the option to pay a fee and bankroll that money.
However, they may respond anyway.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, the reality is, and this is where it becomes a problem, the fire protection districts are not, I don't know if any of the chiefs would ever say, hey, sucks to be you. I don't think we would say that, but the reality is we also have a very strong commitment to our existing taxpayers and customers, and so they would come first, for sure.
Appreciate it.
You bet.
Thank you. All right, so you asked the question, Grant. We were good. We already did the vote. Okay.
No,
All right.
I asked the question
You
after
did
the
ask.
fact, and I shouldn't have done that.
That's okay.
Curiosity was driving
Go,
me nuts.
okay. All right, on to, I think number 4 we're on, our strategic plan. Sam? Lloyd, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. As we discussed at the last meeting and I made the presentation about the strategic plan, we are ready to adopt that strategic plan at this meeting. The staff report is there. The plan itself is there, and there's also an ancillary graphic that shows the strategic and the goals, the strategic objectives, and the strategic priorities for the county. So at this point in time, I'm recommending adoption of the strategic plan by the Board of County Commissioners.
And this is the plan that you presented at the workshop?
Yes.
Yep.
Yep. It's good. Real good. Any comments?
No,
I was good.
I like the idea that
liked
we're
it.
finally looking
Finally got
towards
it.
the future.
Yes. It's been something we've been working on a couple years.
Yep.
So,
Fact
Alright.
is, some of us even run on the idea that we needed to get a strategic plan. Each one of us named it a little differently, but.
We did.
This is
Yeah, thank
a real big step.
couple months to figure out the different terminology, huh? All right, so, we'll do a motion, make a motion? Yes, and then we'll do a motion, a second, then I'll ask for public comment. Do whatever.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt the strategic plan as presented.
Second.
Second. All right, now, since we've made our comments, public comment, please.
Hello. I have some concerns in that I've been looking for at
You
least.
need to identify yourself.
Oh, my name is Carla Haygood. I have to do it again. Hi.
Address, please.
31981 Ridge Road, Rama.
Thank you.
Okay, that's kind of off 86, nowhere near Rama proper. Okay.
I know another person that has the same.
Yeah, I bet you do. You know, you have that big question about what's Rama and where's Rama. Okay. I've been looking for the strategic plan on the Elbert County website for over a week, and I have not been able to find it except for a really early draft that no way resembles what I was sent yesterday. Now, it was posted yesterday. I couldn't even open the document. So I was kind of surprised when I did see it, you know, what it looked like. I feel like it's missing some of the core values that really are the foundation of what the strategic plan is. And I have some concern about anti-growth angst being listed as a threat. And I do realize there are some people that do feel that way. But I think the majority of people that are being painted with that stroke are really more concerned that their values and their priorities are not really being represented. And I certainly don't really see them in the strategic plan. So I know I only have 3 minutes, and I don't really think this is a place to go into great detail, but I don't see things like preservation of wildlife and promotion of tourism and things that are really more like quality of life issues. It seems to have a focus that is on economics, and we all recognize that economics are important. I mean, that's how everything works. If you don't have it, you can't look at these other things that are quality of life issues. But the people of Elbert County, again and again, have expressed that they have a concern about these quality of life issues. And I really think they need to be reflected in the strategic plan. So I know there's been people been working on this for a long time, but I'd at least like to either have it delayed, you know, to consider some of these issues, or to have conditional approval to go back and look at these issues. So once again, thank you very much.
Thank you, Carla. That's in the comp
Yeah.
plan. Yeah, that's where that's addressed.
Some confusion of where the documentation of your question is, and that's in the comprehensive plan. And that took the planning commission, what, 2 years to put together? So they debated that issue multiple times, but that's where it's located.
And I would say you're exactly right, and it's very economically focused, because the strategic plan is really the business plan of the county. The other, I would say, is strategic plans are very much a living document.
Well, you do have core values that do have other things besides economics. So it is not strictly an economic plan, what you've presented as core values in the strategic plan. So if you want to label it as an economic strategic plan, then I have no problems with it. Okay. I kind of look at it as if you have a medical condition, let's say you're dizzy, and you go to an ear doctor and he tells you you have a inner ear balance problem. If you go to an eye doctor, he says you have a vision problem. If you go to a neurologist, it says you have a problem with your brain. I see that this board looks at everything through an economic prism, and we just need to be careful that we're looking at other things that are outside that economic view. You know, thanks.
Thank you. Okay. Don't take it. Any other public comment? Go ahead.
Liz Alvarez, 512 Middle Station Circle. My question is regarding the referral that you received from Arapahoe County. On your strategic plan, you have, you know what, I actually think this is a question for the afternoon, so
Yes,
I'm going to, yeah, I just remember this. No problem, that's it.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. We have any more comments up here? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Sam, thanks for all the work on
Yeah.
that. That was, we've got,
Recess for the hearing?
I was gonna finish action items.
Oh, we do have that.
Yeah, we have one more.
Yeah, that's
We
right.
have one more item on action item. We do, we have, I believe in addition to the planning commission? Yes.
You guys are looking at me. I guess I should say something.
Yes.
So, Commissioners, Sam Walker, County Manager, we have some vacancies in the Planning Commission, and we have had an additional resignation. Bob Meyer has resigned. We would recommend appointing a new person to the Planning Commission. Justin Clausen is now available for the Planning Commission. He has experience, and this would be an appointment until 12/31 of 18 to fill a current vacancy in Commissioner Richardson's district, and then we'll do the entire reappointment next year for everybody.
Okay. Comments here? No?
No, that's a good idea.
Do you have a motion?
Yep. Mr. Chair, I move that we appoint Mr. Justin Clausen, or I guess in this case it would be a reappointment.
Reappointment, yeah.
Mr. Justin Clausen to the Planning Commission to serve out the term ending December 31st of this year.
And I'd also ask, or suggest perhaps that take place, effective date of the 22nd of November.
Okay,
22nd.
all right, I'll take that. I guess I will add that as a effective 21
Effective.
December,
22 December.
or November. sorry.
November.
November of
22
this year,
November.
yeah.
We'll get it right.
Yeah.
Second.
We have a second.
Did you get all, did you get that, Dallas? or-
Dallas.
Okay.
All right, do we have any public comment on our, no? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, next part is the budget, but I think, can we take a recess for about 5 minutes? Then we'll come back and go through the budget. It take a bit.